Sorry, the participants are in the waiting room.
Ok, gracias.
Unos minutos.
Just a couple of minutes while the participants join.
The International Association of Coaching. Home of the Coaching Masteries.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second day of Vadis Coaching, an event that we have organized throughout the past few years to celebrate coaching around the world. But this year, particularly, we're celebrating 20 years of IAC, 20 years supporting coaching and aiming to and making it happen that every day coaching becomes significant and taking coaching to a new standard, innovating and taking each day that purpose of making the masteries of coaching from IAC more significant. Yesterday, we had an extraordinary day to kick off. We had the opportunity to retell the story of IAC through its own protagonists. They led by our president, Angelina A. We had with us Barbara Mark, Krishna Kumar, and Shah Murthy, telling us about the perspective and how they lived through the history of IAC.
Que van a ver este capítulo en diferido.
If you watching us today live and that will see this chapter and recording, did not have the opportunity to see that program, we invite you to go to our webpage, our official Facebook webpage, and or our YouTube channel to watch that. It was truly an inspiring session. And today we have a great day and we're going to start. But before introducing our guests for today, I want to take just 1 minute to thank all the team of IAC that has participated in the organization of Vadis Coaching, particularly the committees chapters, the membership chapter, and the communications chapter, and the entire staff of remote assistance and all the staff of IAC involved in Vadis Coaching 2023. Now it's time to start. We have a topic that is extraordinary because we're going to discuss about the future of coaching. We're going to talk about the perspective and the visual that we have right now. And we're going to start with a very special guest, a person that in the world of coaching in spoken in Spanish has an excellent role and has won this through a prolific career. I'm talking about Fernando Saenz. He is the creator and director of 30-Day Coaching Challenge, a co-founder of Coaching Global, and Coaching Challenge meant a before and after in Spanish-speaking coaching. And I'm sure all coaches that speak Spanish are very thankful because of that wonderful idea. And at the same time, Fernando, I'm going to almost continue. We miss that coaching challenge. And I take from the Global Coaching website the following thought. In this idea that we leave the control of what happens is an illusion of the mind that hides in fear when dealing with the circumstances of life. Now, dear friends of IAC and Vadis Coaching, with you, without further preamble, Fernando Saenz. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. And thank you for that introduction. Thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure being in a space with IAC, with the association. I'm very comfortable. I feel very taken care of. So, well, thank you very much. And also, congratulations for the 20 years. I mean, 20 years is taking care of the identity and the broadcasting of professional coaching is really a commitment that's very powerful, very strong. I didn't want to leave that aside, that recognition. And also thank all of the people that were for a while now making all this happen, because you often don't see what's happening in the back. And there's a lot of people of many parts of the world speaking different languages and making it that so that those that we need to speak can do that, and those that need to hear are also being able to hear the message clearly. So congratulations on all that work and that coordination. Okay. So let me put my timer here. I have a bit of an issue that sometimes I had a lot of words to say, so I'm gonna get a little guidance so I don't get carried away. This summoning is for a very fundamental topic, which is the future of coaching. So to start, I'm gonna first ask for I'm gonna apologize, because if anyone wanted to talk about futurology, about what's going to happen with coaching or what's going to happen in general, I'm not gonna take that path. I think that the future of coaching is defined actually with what we do with coaching. Of course, there's going to be new scenarios that will be impacted by technological changes, cultural changes, and a lot of other variables, but it's really hard to predict what are those scenarios. Who really knows what those are going to be? And even the obsession for predicting that, it could be counterintuitive, because we miss out on resources from the past, from the present, where we can actually look at what will happen. So this obsession for trying to know what's going to come, I find it that you sometimes cannot find a real path. So my perspective is not in predicting, but actually in creating, because even thinking about it, if we're predicting and you were able to predict and you hit that prediction, it doesn't mean that we are, or that we become something that matches with that future. So the fact that we predict it doesn't mean we're prepared for it. So I actually believe that it's about creating the systems, the ways of being that benefit from changes, whatever those changes are. And particularly Black cinema. And those that don't know what I mean, I'm talking about the high impact, very unlikely event. So we're talking about black swans, and what are we doing? What are we facing with this that's happening? Whatever it is, it's like a system that processes the inputs of reality and turns them into an output to grow. Almost as an alchemist that transforms the stones of adversity and knows not the ones of possibility. So to that system, to that way of being, and in the works of Nassim Taleb, it's an anti-fragile system. How can we create as coaches this anti-fragile system that whatever it becomes, we'll be able to grow with that? And that's a question I make myself. How can we grow with what we have in the present, with an anti-fragile coaching that scales and prospers in any future scenario? And for that, I bring 5 points. Okay. And over those 5 points, I want to discuss. Okay. All good so far? Do you agree with me? Do this. If you don't agree, we can work with the black swan and we can change. That's not an issue. Okay, perfect. So the first thing I want to tell you is a research that we made from one of my companies in Coaching Global, and was a very interesting research, the results that it provided. But given that we are with you here live, and those that had it recorded, of course, as well, I would like to make it a little bit live. So the research itself that we did literally with thousands of people, there were hundreds, but we arrived to 1,000+ people here in Latin America. But the question is the following: who out of you, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, not digitally, but who amongst you over the past years has felt internally that there is something, there's a chapter of your life that's starting to close out, and another chapter that's beginning to be written? Like there's a radical change. What's happened to you? Has anyone felt that? Yeah. I want you to look. Now, this that you're seeing, this is the same thing that happened when we made the survey. We did it in Latin America and US, but I suspect that in other continents, the answer is similar. So what gave us as a result this survey? The result was that 89% of adults, 89, feels that urge for a vital change or a radical change. The thing is that we asked if 5 years ago they felt that, because it's perhaps something human beings are always feeling. And the thing is that only 25% felt it 5 years ago. So it's a fundamental difference, meaning some years, yeah, I would like to have this set of results, but this sense that if I was the series of a digital platform and my season is coming to an end and another one's about to start, that profound sensation and an urge for change and transformation at that level was not happening 5 years ago. But now it happens to 89% of adults. Now, the thing was the following question that I can also make to you. If I asked any of you to speak publicly, I'm not going to do it, but if I asked you to speak publically and to tell me clearly what that change is about, where is it going, how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, in which way, who has that level of clarity to tell me where that change is going? Now watch. I see one hand raised. So nothing. Gonzalo more or less there than Gregory. This is what's happening, Marcela. 85% of people that responded that they were in that change has no idea where they're going. Well, that is an incredible space for the present, but also for the future. There's a lot of people knowing internally. You wake up at night and you're more or less dreaming about it. You go through the street, particularly if you're in nature, and thoughts come by. You're talking with friends in a relaxed space, and suddenly this starts appearing. Usually when you're in a space that's tense, that doesn't happen. But at that point, when you put your guard down a little bit, there's something internally almost uncontrollable that says radical change. But when you want to ask yourself where that's going, it's not that clear. So that impulse, a little bit playing with the anti-fragile word, I baptized it and named it anti-fragile switch or vital switch. And this is something that human beings have, not only human beings have this. If you look at the plant, you set the plant and let it grow, and it starts turning its leaves in such a way that they look for the sun. A baby is born and holds on to his mother's breast. What is that? How do you call that? What is this that naturally looks for that evolution and that preserving of life? That's what I call an anti-fragile impulse. I'm not talking about that psychoanalytic push for life or death. I'm talking about something that is exclusively biological, that doesn't have a rational explanation directly, but it's there. Now, the question is, why did it happen in such a magnitude in this latest times? What happened that 89% of people are living through that anti-fragile impulse? Well, that has a long explanation, but basically it has to do with a change of trends in the world. And the last pretty much 10 years, there's orientation that changed. When that anti-fragile impulse comes in, when there's change, when there's, if everything's stable, it's not necessary, but it is that anti-fragile impulse is necessary in changing environments. I remember some years ago in this coaching challenge, we talked about a pre-pandemic world, and pandemic hadn't come. So there's many things that have happened that perhaps you don't think it doesn't influence, but a part of the context, worldwide, regional, and the one that we live, armed conflict in Syria, Libya, in Yemen, political changes in the US, the commercial struggle between US and China, the social process in Latin America, Chile, Colombia, Venezuela, the ideological enmity, the COVID, that stress post-COVID, and the war in Ukraine, and AI, and now the conflict in the Gaza Strip. All that and some things I didn't mention that generates us to be in a context that's totally unstable. Facing that anti-fragile impulse just shoots off. And that's what makes us 89% to look for a change, but we don't know where we're going. And that's one of the points that I think it's vital to be able to observe where coaching has a space. Because if you look at it, it's not about what results I create now. It's about what lifestyle I want to live. It's changing the what with the how. How do you want to live, not what do you want to achieve? And as you have clarity on how you want to live, this separation of business on one side and lifestyle on the other, if there's no coherence with those two causes, there's a level of suffering and stress that's very profound. So the coach can observe this trend and this movement. And on the other hand, we have this anti-fragile impulse, but if we don't have water running that gives life, but water that doesn't move, it rots. So if we don't act upon that anti-fragile impulse, there's this uneasiness that starts, and things starts to rot away. So I have this impulse, and that is an incredible place for coaching to be able to come in. And we have many years in front of us. And that's point number one. Probably I'm getting a little bit fast, but point number two is first point, I call it towards where are we going? The second point is to create or recreate. I would call it that way, because obviously I'm not going to stop talking about AI, which is something that's very strong right now, particularly looking at the future. Now, can AI create, make creatively things outside that canon of those things that it was trained for? Like on the last Google paper, the answer is no, not yet. Okay, meaning AI recreates, doesn't create. It's an incredible smart search engine for interconnection to create from a future that's historically determined, meaning it creates inedited variables, and coaching is, in essence, creating what doesn't exist. Therefore, there's no struggle there. There's no clash. As a coach, I create what's missing, giving the commitments that we have. AI has a great creativity within a gigantic data set that's intermixed. It mixes it in such a way that creates a great number of variables, but in regular AI is still not intuitive. It's rational. It accelerates and improves a lot of the operational tasks that we have today, and it allows us to use energy and what really human beings are, relationships and evolution. But if you're coaching, as I observe that's happening more and more, it started to base more on a little bit of recommendation, a little bit more on, tackling on the coaching conversation, looking for certain solutions that brings a little bit of my framework. If that happens, you obviously can be replaced by AI. But if we go back to the essence of coaching, which is creating what doesn't exist, from that place, not only are you not replaced, but you are propelled in a way that didn't even exist before. Point number 3, own way. We saw to create or recreate. What does your own way mean? Today, the market is flooded with coaching with PNL, integral, quantitative coaching, philosophical coaching, directive coaching, spiritual coaching, Buddhist coaching, directive coaching, life coaching, etc., etc., etc. And the truth, that's all fine and well, because in a way, if PNL coaching, it's reflecting from where I'm coming. If you talk about ontological coaching, it's telling me what's the world vision from which I see the world. If it's talking about spiritual coaching, it's talking about coaching in the realm of spirituality, and that's all fine and well. Now, the question is, what does the first word mean in coaching? Because sometimes in coaching with this, coaching with that, what ends up happening is that there's a search of providing value to coaching with something else. And you know what that generates? It generates a lack of value in coaching itself. Coaching has its own weight. Coming back to what the essence is, today what makes the greatest difference is not the second or the accompanying word, it's the word coaching. I don't need to explain to Socrates to create coaching. I don't need to explain Zen theories to explain coaching. I don't need to get into humanistic psychology to talk about coaching and create constellations. That doesn't mean that I cannot integrate all that. Hopefully you're following. But what I'm saying is, be careful that we don't lose that weight of coaching in itself, because what's going to make it anti-fragile is that as coaches, we have self-esteem in coaching, and not that we're looking for crutches to support ourselves. For me, the center of coaching is bringing that present of possibility to the game of that relationship in a company. Not as an intellectual forced act of seeing yourself in a place out in the future, but really living that state of your soul that really breaks up the time and brings the present to the future. The possibility in coaching, it's really it's this history that it revolves around us and really creates worlds, and you really have to have an option that is so powerful, so magical, and so necessary that often it doesn't need a last name. And being able to put strength on that is one of the central situations that you really be able to provide value in coaching, and done not to have this mix that we don't really know what it's about in the end. First point, where to. Second, create, recreate. Third, own way. Fourth point, from where. So from where do we do coaching? To make it short and understandable, there's an exercise I did many times. I'm not going to do it because of time, but what I ask coaches is to do an infography of the coaching process. So drawings with relationships that show you how the coaching process works. 90%, and that may be short. How does the infography start? Always. It starts with a person, with a broken person, or crying, or laying on the ground. And how does it end? With a person that's happy and joyful and great. What does that mean? That we start from this space that to make coaching, something has to be wrong to make it right. So then we ask ourselves why it's difficult to sell in certain spaces coaching, right? Meaning if we start from that mental map that's unconscious, that to get into a coaching process, something has to be wrong. This generates a whole way of moving throughout the world. And I'm not saying that everyone does it, but I'm saying that 90% of coaches, which are hundreds that we ask to draw the process, draw that. Why can you not start with a person that's happy, joyful, full, that just wants to go to another level, that simply wants to have a different world from the one they have today. And today they're great, they're exultant, they're happy. So there's another interesting point to observe there. From where am I thinking about coaching and thinking about it? And fifth and last point, after speaking towards where to create, recreate, own weight, and from where, it's what I would call the mindset, that mentality, that mental map of coaching more than the coach. And this is because in general, people, we connect with coaching in two ways. We either receive coaching or we are trained as coaches or developed as coaches. This is one of the two ways. We either receive coaching or we develop as coach and we end up being coaches. Any of the research that you take from different associations, different private entities, any that you take, will provide you that around 70% in average, some more, some less, but 70% of the coaches that are developed as coaches don't exercise as such. Some will give you more, some less, but approximately 60-70% of people that are developed as coaches don't exercise their role. Why? Because it's not a professional search. It's searching to develop that mindset of the coach. It's looking for something that has to do with what's happening to me. It's going into a space where you can find a different way of being able to observe, to look, and move around in the world. So rescuing that mindset of the coach as something that not only is going to be developed by coaches to provide coaching, but as a way of moving through the world that can be used by a lawyer, a teacher, a military, a mother, a father. How is a person that has this lens of coach when they walk through the street and adversity comes? And it doesn't have to do with becoming a professional coach, but also doesn't have to deal with receiving a coaching process. It has to do with incorporating something different that allows me to move in different ways. That is a space that there's still a lot to explore. That doesn't have to do with the training directly as coach and going through everything related to a coaching certification, and doesn't have to deal with the process of starting and receiving coaching, but it has to do with the incorporation of a different way of moving through the world. If we can bring that, if we can start to orient coaching not towards being broken, but you're great, but we're looking for something more. If we can give it its own way to coaching, coaching and its ethics, it's that possibility. If we can understand that coaching doesn't have to do with recreating or AI being a threat, but actually has to deal with creating what doesn't exist. And if we can start using this situation of the anti-fragile impulse that in the world is happening to be able to collaborate and accompany people through lifestyles that wish and yearn for what are not happening. Without a doubt, we're going to be generating an anti-fragile coaching that will not only survive, but grow, develop, and become exponential in any scenario that we have to deal with. Thank you. Fernando, thank you very much. And I'm sure that people that are accompanying us today are, telling the Vadis Coaching Organizing Committee, thank you for inviting for your such clear ideas and the significance of your words today. I find a lot of great points that I agree with you. And to start my presentation, I want to say that I'm going to share a thought that accompanies me since the end of the pandemic, when I started to think that as never before the world needs coaching, and as never before the coaching is prepared for the world. And with the adaptive answers that we need in front of the that transversal conversations that and situations we're having. And when we talk, we can talk with our clients and talk with the people that make up those teams that we work with. We realize that they're really striving for these answers to come more from empathy, from compassion, and very often from generosity. Sometimes it would seem as there's a lot of hostility for a human being in receiving everything that's happening currently. And we live in a world, if you will, that's a bit of a paradox, that day-to-day lives with, things that conflict with each other, and immense Socratic ideology with, very quick advances. Technology is taking leaps and bounds and necessarily needs to be incorporated. People in teams have challenges in having an effective communication, a deep communication, where psychological safety that is so much talked about in the Aristotle project in Google tells us that in numerous times it's a great challenge in companies and groups. So we have a great gap there. At the same time, we're in the presence of the birth of new business models with super innovative concepts. But looking at the Gallup survey from 2021, we realized that only 20% of employees in survey felt committed with the work. And there we find a gap that's very significant. While in the presence of more and more competitive global markets, the 63% of people today are needing to have peace, harmony in their lives. So the balance between their personal and professional life, it's a priority. And at the same time, we're trying to learn to work in interdependency with AI. And the Rising Resilient study says that it's 55% of employees today say they don't reach their full potential. So we're learning to live with AI. On the other hand, human beings feel that we are not reaching the maximum of our potential. 55% of this means that half of the work teams of our human workforce is consider themselves less than they should. Climate change at the same time is a reality, and on one hand, we have more consciousness of the environment and social aspects. On the other hand, we have groups that disregard totally this reality. At the same time, interculturality and intergeneration gets to a point in enterprise, in companies, and Rise and Rise Studio says that 42% of people that have a job today don't feel any type of safety there. And at the same time that we have a life and work in real time, 30% of people that are part of the workforce are defined as people that are resilient. I mean, 70% is on the other side of the coin. So if we can see these contradictions that are happening around the world, we also realize that that need for response or adaptive response makes it that we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to react? How would we answer? From where can we build that response that's necessary, that's adaptive, that takes us to that next level? What would we need to learn and what would we need to unlearn? And the simple questions, I understand that people, the teams in our organization are making themselves these questions more consistently each day and each time, with this need of building different perspectives because scenarios change day to day. And the technological event, sometimes it's overstated in its human impact. And I would like to say that in the technological world, the human beings has to be the primary value. There's no possibility if human beings are not considered. And my day-to-day as a coach, for example, working with athletes, high-level athletes in the world of football, technology today is a whole issue. It's a whole set of circumstances. And sabermetrics measure 45 indicators of what a football player does in many different aspects. And it's very interesting because you find technical directors that resist this and even resist coaching. And on the other hand, you find people that are having immense results with sabermetrics and coaching, and with this new perspective, let's call it a modern perspective now. And does technology help us make better decisions? Absolutely, yes. But there's a story that I want to refer to briefly to understand a little bit of where I believe that we're always going to have coaching. And I agree with you, Fernando, that coaching, the future of coaching is in what we do in the present. And yesterday, Martha Pasternak, in our edition yesterday, referenced this as well. The future is in what we're going to do today. And just a year ago, we had a guy from one of our teams that lost his father. And on Tuesday, we all attended and accompanied him in the funeral of his father. And when we came out, the coach, you can take off the rest of the week. And early that day, the kid was there and trained on Wednesday and Thursday as never before. The following day, the same thing. This kid is part of this summoning as player number 23. It means that before he is able to come into the court, there's 12 players in front of him. And on Saturday, he has the coach to play on Sunday at 5 p.m. And the DT said, let's see how the game turns out. And the first half of that game ended up tied 0-0. And when we moved on to this second half, going out to the field, he talks for a second with the DT, and we're gonna play at minute 5. There's a goal against our team, and immediately the DT turns around by intuition and said, warm up, you're coming in. In that game, this kid that was always player number 23, that knows that he's going to be called up, that has to train just as the rest, but that he's not going to play. In 40 minutes, he scored twice. He turned around the game and our team won. So where am I going with this? Nothing can measure the human strength of a decided heart. And when we coach, there's something that will always happen. We're going to have the inspiration of a person, of a team, or an organization. And when the strength of a decided heart and inspiration come together, there's no way for results, for the right results, to be on the side of who is producing that movement. So I feel that coaches, we have to have an idea that's very true about what it means to accompany another human being. That thing about touching the heart and connecting from the heart with other human beings makes a humongous difference. And as Fernando Saenz put very well in his prior intervention, undoubtedly, there is no technology that can take over that space. So the space that we have is the space of human beings connecting with other human beings. And as long as that happens, I'm sure that we will continue always having the possibility and the privilege of being first row observers of the development of human beings and our civilization. And with this, I want to invite all of the people that are accompanying us today, and they can make some questions before going to our summary of our meeting today. So while we have the questions, we'll wait for some of your questions in the chat. I would like Fernando from there to share with you the idea of this possibility of coaching being a relationship between two human beings or between human beings that connect from the heart. Or maybe more than two. Yeah, without a doubt, I think this is an expression that reveals what happens to us in the presence of others. And that's clear for me, that's irreplaceable. I think there's something there that cannot be changed. And that doesn't mean that the other thing is a threat. I think that, there's something very nice that I heard once, and I took it with me, and it's that language, physical communication is done through words. That communication from heart to heart is throughout the singing of emotions. And communication from soul to soul is through silence. So, taking it a step beyond even, how is it that in the presence of another person, in that silence, I can feel transformed without a single word? There's something that happens in that space that only happens in that us that is created independently from everything else. So how many exercises would we have coaching? I remember that at one point they made us coach each other in silence. Not sure if you did it, but you had to think what you wanted to state about coaching, and I just watched the other person in silence in like 5 minutes, both of us just being there, and the conversation finished, and the one that was learning this was saying, wow, I found out so many things. So I mean, and silence is not the absence of words. Silence is the commitment with mystery. So as long as leave this certainty and this mysterious encounter with the other, that's something that doesn't belong just to coaching, but when a coach brings it into play in that relationship of coaching, things really start happening. In that beautiful space where the other one is thought. That time where that reflection and the presence are together, creating that new perspective, creating the new scenario. That's undoubtedly a different way and absolutely human of being able to connect and generate differences. The spaces of silence in coaching sessions end up generating that possibility for our clients and for ourselves to interpret ourselves. Because, and you might agree with me that after a coaching session, we come out us also positively impacted and renewed. Our heart grows and our soul grows in that space. Right. Sometimes we come out worried. And it's happened to me that I've left some coaching sessions thinking that perhaps I did such a good job. I'm not sure if that's happened to any of you. Sometimes those things happen also because as human beings, and it's good to integrate that as human beings, things happen. Sometimes that demand you put on ourselves, and maybe some need of controlling some things. It still happens to me after 20 plus years. I sometimes come out of a session with that sense that I could have done a better job. And you know what, I bring this up because to me, be able to recognize this makes me more human with my own self. So it's like without a doubt, when you look at that trend, of course, yeah. Even when that happens, it's growth. Even when that happens to you, it's a very important growth. Without a doubt. Sometimes coaching, I say, we're a little bit, it's a bit of a provocation to bring up some conversation. I say we're a little bit codependent. We need to be needed. So, because in the act of coaching, we satisfy something of ours. So in a way, we need it. And I think all that makes us more human. I don't believe in perfect coaching. I don't believe in perfect people. I believe in that we're untying evolutionary knots in our relationship with others. And coaching, being a coach and doing coaching is a way for us to also make that happen to us. That happens with me, that you were saying. Maybe the possibility would be seeing ourselves not only as a human being, speaking with another human being. From that perspective, I think we would be in a huge difference. Okay, I think that, Fernando, we're going to generate now that space in summary with our chapter leaders. I want, in name of, on behalf of the International Association of Coaching, to thank you greatly for being with us today. Dedicate this space of your time and your agenda to be in this School Vadis Coaching 2020. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank you personally, and with you, all the people that you represent. So it's always a pleasure, and open to continue knitting this coaching interweaving that we're creating. I tell you that in all Latin America, we miss coaching challenge. I'm gonna take on that request undercover. Okay. Now we're gonna continue, my dear friends, with our the program for today, and we're gonna have in our panel our chapter leaders. And firstly, I'm going to invite Mr. Aslam Ansaki, who is our chapter leader for India. He's representing our India chapter, and Mr. Domenico Sirica from the Venezuela chapter. He's been a leader of our Venezuela chapter for the past 2 years, and at the same time has been with us on this voyage for throughout time in different levels of the organization. And I would like to now, Domenico, to start with you and see that perspective of your summary of the conversation from today, but also look at your own and personal perspective about the future of coaching. Go ahead, Domenico. Well, very good day, everyone. Thank you, William. For me, it's a great pleasure to be here sharing ideas with you. And hearing Fernando Saenz board for me was extraordinary. I'm sure that many other people here were excited when hearing those 5 points that he very detailed explained in detail. So in that, looking at that essence of coaching in the School of Vadis event and coaching, we spoke about at the beginning of where are we going towards? And I'm sure that 20 years ago, the founders of IAC wouldn't have imagined that currently on November 14th of 2023, we would have people from 5 continents together exchanging ideas and feelings in relation to coaching. And I think it's important that we all understand that the future of coaching depends on what each of us does today. So here I would like to leave a question to reflect upon, and it's, what is the future of coaching that you want, and what are you doing to achieve that? So that would invite us to become each day concrete actions to build that future of coaching that we all want. And it's true that we're in this time of technological advancement that are happening very rapidly, and I agree that human warmth, compassion, love, empathy are elements that no matter how much technology advances, they're not going to be able to be replaced. And I think that in these times, we need human beings that are warmer, more human, more empathetic. And that is what we human beings need. So in parallel to the technological advancements, my message for everyone, my invitation for everyone is for us to become more human. And the better humans we are, the better coaching will be doing. And that is aligned with what was talked about yesterday, this invitation that was made that it really impacted me, not to do coaching, but actually to become coaches. The mindset of the coach each time should be a lot more humane, and we need to understand that further beyond knowledge and training that should happen, we need to be committed with that. And actually one of our values as an organization we need to train the skills of our hearts. And I'm sure that doing that, each one of us putting that little grain of salt, will be able to achieve an extraordinary future for coaching. Very good, Domenico. Thank you for your intervention. And now to continue, and also because it requires a very special presentation, I want to introduce Jasmine, our leader for the China chapter. Jasmine has been for a long time within our organization, and today she's an important part of the committee that organizes our triads globally. And now that we're all together, I leave you so you can continue your conversation. Welcome, Jasmine. Thank you.
Thank you, Gualian. Just now, I feel honored to be invited to share my thoughts. Yeah, and just now I heard Fernando's sharing. I have some connection with his some statement. He's talk about frustration and anti-fragile. Uh, yes. Sorry. Let me turn off the translation. Okay. Okay. He just now mentioned about frustration and anti-fragile. Actually, I have some connection with this topic. Actually, in China, we also have a very old Chinese wisdom saying, good is bad and bad is good. It talks about when you face the frustrated situation, actually, you got an opportunity to achieve a lot in some of the perspective. And this kind of the wisdom actually is very similar to the coaching's fundamental philosophy. So when you are facing the most difficult time, actually, this is the golden opportunity for you to develop your competency and make you stronger. So I like that point very much. And as for his second key point is about AI and how we are going to create and recreate. We have talked about it with some of my friends just a few months ago. Actually, because in China, some of the people have put a lot of efforts to develop an AI robot, a coaching robot. So we have got very interested, and but I feel in terms of the AI technology, I totally agree with Fernando's saying. Actually, this is more human touch because when you have a coaching conversation, coach's expression, coach's warmness, coach's eye contact, facial expression, and this human touch is unreplaceable. And we are also talking about the team coaching. And I feel that it is more unlikely to be replaced by AI technology for the team coaching. You know, the team coaching is more relates to the team reaction. You know, you need to observe the individual's nominal cues and the people's chemical during the team. So we think that team coaching could be have a very good future, a bright future in the training and the consultancy area. And as the third part, actually, Fernando said about age of changing. I feel I totally agree with him that recently, not only in China, so amazingly that actually in the worldwide, people are feeling the same. Actually, we are now in the world of changing. And as for China, as you know, that mainly now is facing the downturn of the economy and the downsizing of the employment. And probably this situation could be lasting for quite a long. I think actually in this phase, actually coaching becomes more and more important. By applying coaching's fundamental philosophy, it could as of be greatly helping people to pause, to stop, and to think deeply, to redefine what is the success, and then release their pressure, and turning their focus from outside to inside. And as of with full of energy and confidence to face various difficulties and overcome a lot of obstacles ahead to living a blooming, colorful life. And something that I want to say differently is that we are all talking about as a coach, you can help people. But what I want to say is that as a coach, actually, you benefit by yourself. Actually, you choose a career as a coach. As actually, the most beneficiary people is you. Okay. And once you live out of yourself in amazing status, actually it will influence the people around you. The first benefited people are your family, your colleagues, your friends. And later on, through that small circle, actually you can inspire more people to pursue what is really important to them. So actually my experience is that many coaching friends share with me how different they feel after they learn and apply coaching into their work and life communication. Okay, learning coach is not only to create another career path, helping others to achieve well-being, but more importantly, to make she or him own life much more full and free. So that's what I say. So I add one more point. Actually, coaching is not only helping others, you are helping yourself. So that is my total statement.
Thanks, Jasmine, Domenico. This has really been worthwhile listening to both of you. The conversation that we had about the future of coaching, empathy, compassion, generosity. See, change as such is happening, and with AI, with business models changing, with boundaries of the world shrinking, or leaving us interacting with all of us at the same time. Now the geographical boundaries are almost gone. We can talk to people from China, from Brazil, from as it happens. And we will be going through many more changes like this. And the speed of change is also going to become faster and quicker. And precisely the reason why coaching becomes very important. When the workforce is hit with something new, something different, something which they're not aware with, the life and work balance starts getting disturbed. For 2 years, we were working from home. Now everybody is being called back to work. working from home was a big requirement of coaching, particularly the leaders, how to handle their team. Now, even people going back to work is a challenge for the leaders. So the point that I'm trying to make and what I could understand from Gulian and Fernando was that the change is happening and will continue to happen. However, the more important part is the human touch. And towards the end of the discussion, I almost was as if I was reading or going through an alchemist happening just in front of our eyes. It was more soul to soul, being the conversation, spirituality was the topmost. And once you are able to connect with your coachee at a spiritual level or at a soul level, and you're able to guide, you also get guided. And that is precisely if you can, I mean, as a coach, if we can meet that, no technology per se can replace that. And if you are following processes, yes, those are important. But then the processes ultimately should lead to the human being or two humans interacting even without a word. The beauty of the silence, where the communication happens without a word. And those are the pauses when a transformation just begins. It could be for the coach and the coachee as well. There are a couple of experiences where I've had in the past where just that silence took on, and the coachee said, I have understood exactly what I need to do, and they have gone on their path. And in fact, coaching per se, rightly said, it will encompass not only one-to-one individuals, it will also get into teams. Because now the team managing skills or working in teams is at a very high demand. Most of the organizations, when the people are coming back to work physically, I mean, they need to interact. They need to form the teams. They have, or for last 2 years, they have been just interacting on a Zoom call. So yes, I mean, the future of coaching, the way I see, is more in terms of getting the team together and interacting with the technology developments where they can use it for the organization and for their own development as well. Nowadays, people do talk about themselves sometimes before than the organization and the work that they have. So when that is changing, for sure is going to become the strongest tool for times to come. With that, I'm thankful to being a part of this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a todos ustedes, Jasmine, Aslam y
Thank you
Domenico.
very much, all of you, Jasmine, Aslam, and Domenico. It's been a pleasure hearing you, and thank you for cooperating with Q Vadis Coaching. And now, friends, we are coming to our final section. Please don't leave because we're going to take a group photograph to have this fantastic memory from today. Not without reminding you first that tomorrow at the same time, we're going to have a spectacular panel with Marcelo Prinsky, Jose Manuel Pepe del Rio, Gonzalo de Canal, and Jessica Liu, speaking about inner peace and balance and how we connect with this authentic and fabulous topic on code. So we invite you for tomorrow, and please spread the word. This broadcast from today in a few hours will be available in our YouTube channel, in our Facebook page, and in a section in our web page of Q Vadis Coaching 2023. So if you found this valuable, share it with your friends and colleagues. and let them visit our social media, our YouTube channel, our official webpage in Facebook, and you can, so they can receive this message and this content. Thank you everyone for having joined us. And now we will simply, let's just smile and put our face of happening for our group photo as a memory from today. If the production team can tell us when we're ready.
Okay, we're done with the camera. Thank you for smiling.
Gracias a todos por acompañarnos en el día de hoy.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. And we'll see you tomorrow on our third day of Vadis coaching. Thank
The
you
International Association of
the
Coaching.
International Association of Coaching. Thank you, Fernando Saenz for
Of
your
the
intervention
Coaching
today as well.
Masteries.
Gigi, can you leave the room open, please?
Thank you.